The Adventures of Batman.
Welcoming you to the new adventures of Batman.
Welcome to Batmanimation, a Batman on Film podcast exploring the animated adventures of the CAPED Crusader. I am senior BOF contributor Ryan Lauer, and with me is the big cheese, the gumbo guru, Bill, Jett, Ramey. Bill, how are you?
I'm good, and
Good.
I am excited with Batmanimation because we are actually in the moment,
Yes.
right? You know what I'm saying?
First time.
Yeah, because we're delving back into the past with all previous episodes because that's all we had. That's all we had to go to was the previous animated movies or mainly from the TV series. But now we have a new Batman animated series out right now. In case you didn't know, you heard about that, didn't you, Ryan?
I've heard about it. Yes, I've heard about this. It's all the buzz these days. And actually, I think this is like you're making history with Batman on Film, because I don't think there were any podcasts at all about an animated Batman series as it was coming out. Because the last one was Beware the Batman.
Beware the Batman.
And I don't think that was happening then. So
yeah,
good stuff. Good stuff all around. And yeah, that was one of the things I was going to bring up too. So you read my mind on that, of like, it's a fun, enjoy the ride, as you said. You and I, we didn't set cruise control. We put the pedal to the metal and blasted through.
Yes. Yeah.
all of this. I still enjoyed the ride.
I'm going to blame it on, I did it as it was work related. All right. Is that fair? Right. Because I was reviewing season 1 once it dropped. So when they all dropped at once, I had to, I sacrificed. I took one for the team and power watched all 10 episodes over basically in one day, and then did the review the next day.
I took the day off of work because I also had a long weekend off anyway.
Well, first of all, it should have been a national holiday.
it should have been
August 1st,
so I don't understand what people were missing. But I took, let's see, I woke up, I poured my cereal, and I took 2 breaks, one to make lunch, and then one to shower. And then, like, otherwise I sat and watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to definitely, and I wanted to make sure that if any point I started to get a little fidgety or anything, I had to, like, in my head, I was like, nope, need to pause, because you're not going to, like, go, I don't know, walk around, get some air or something, and then come back and sit so you can focus. So I'm not focused on being fidgety. And that was my shower break. I'm like, oh, I'm a little fidgety. Okay, shower break. And then came back and wrote it out the rest of the way. So
yes, and hygiene is very important to you. So
yes, everybody, please clean yourself. Okay. Let's see, this is episode 51 of Batmanimation, and we're starting with Batman CAPED Crusader, season 1, which I know is funny to even mention which one we're talking about, or what series and what season, but episode 2 called "And Be a Villain." Because if I have this right, Javi is going to be up next, and he's going to talk about the first episode. So these might be a little out of order, but Batmanimation is going to talk all about every episode.
I'll say
scattered maybe.
Javi is doing it in more detail. We did do a first reaction to it the day it dropped, and talked about that first one, In Treacherous Waters with the penguin, but just to give our take on first, first out of the gate take
Yeah.
on reaction to the series. So yeah, this maybe 1 and 2 right here will be out of order, but the rest should be go along with the episodes as they are numbered. And I am doing the written. I'm doing a written review of each one, so that'll be on Batman.
That's right.
As well.
Obviously, these dropped on Amazon Prime. Like that's the only place that you can watch them right now. Let's see, the summary of this episode as listed on Amazon Prime says, when a glamorous movie star disappears, Batman and Detective Montoya find themselves tangled up in the dark web of a mysterious Avenger haunting the sound stages. So as we all knew right away that this was Clayface, we got a look of Clayface. Clayface is the villain of this episode. Before we get into anything, I haven't seen anybody mention this, Bill, and I can't sit and believe that I'm the only one that noticed this. I think others did too. But I want to ask you, as you watched your way through the whole first season, did you skip the intro at all?
I may have on a couple, but I really like that intro.
Okay. Well,
So
I
like
only ask because it's like 30 seconds, 33 seconds, 30 to 40, something like that. But
220, 221.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? So it's not just like a background template, because some of the clips that are playing in the background behind the text of executive producers and stuff are clips from the series. But the last one before Batman Caped Crusader pops up is specific to each episode. Did you pick up on that?
I did not. Interesting.
Okay. So there's like maybe 6 or 7 shots, and then Batman Caped Crusader with the big, crescendo of the music and everything hits. And that last one, when it usually always says written by and then directed by, that background one is always different, and it pertains to something specific to that episode. So I'm trying to think what it was for the first episode. For this one, it was the table with like the science table that has all the chemicals and God, I'm stupid with science, but all of the glasses and all that all over it. And it says written by and directed by on that. So that's a fun like nugget. It was probably the thought popped in my head on the third one. And then so I like the third episode. So then I watched the fourth and I kept that in mind. And then I watched the fifth and kept it in mind. And by then I noticed like, oh man, that's something different.
You know what? That makes me have to go back and rewatch it.
Go rewatch the whole series.
Yeah.
Go watch it all. Speaking of written and directed by, I pulled this up here. Let's see, there's a lot of credits. So writing credits, this is, oh man, I don't see IMDb, I think really botched giving credits on this one. Because this one says Greg Rucka wrote this one, directed by Matt Peters. But anyways, I'm just gonna go to the episode itself and look it up that way. But anyways, we knew that this was about Clayface. We got our first look of Clayface back in May on that article that was dropped, I think on Vanity Fair, and you and I think podcasted about it.
Yeah.
And this was like this Clayface was taken right out of his first appearance in comics. Okay, yes, this one. Yeah, Greg Rucka, written by Greg Rucka, directed by Matt Peters. Comic book fans know the name Greg Rucka. Matt Peters, he's no stranger to animation, but anyways, what did you think of Clayface? Like the aesthetic of Clayface in this one?
It was, as you said, they pulled Clayface from his original incarnation, his aesthetically, the look, the trench coat, the big hat, the knife, and then there's some differences that I thought were I thought it was very clever in that, spoiler alert, we're going to talk spoilers. So
yes, I should have said that at the top. Yeah. Spoiler away.
Excuse me. they took that original Clayface, Basil Carlo, the acting thing, the whole 9 yards and all that, and then they added a little bit of the modern Clayface, a little bit, in that Basil was taking some experimental serum that allowed him to basically turn his face into a clay, and he could mold it. So I thought that was very clever. Didn't go too fantastical for me. He wasn't a big shapeshifter,
Yeah.
And probably I thought, you know what? People who want that modern Clayface, this is good enough. That should make them happy. I thought they really well done. Really well done. And that's from someone who is like, I like grounded, realistic Batman.
You and I have said that tons of times on here, that's I think a lot of people that have come to Batman on film for over 25 years share that with you in preference of grounded, realistic take on Batman. And when it comes to Clayface as well, I'm not going to bash on the, shape shifting and, the mud pack story in the comics and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, those are fun. Those are fine. It's not like when Clayface is announced as a villain, though, that I get giddy and excited. I'm like, oh, cool. What are they going to do here? It's like, oh, okay. More of a very subdued kind of. And so reading about this series itself and its take and what it wants to do, and we got that glimpse of Clayface in which, instantly we went back to his first appearance was in Detective Comics number 40. And we looked at that. It got me a little more excited because it was going for a more grounded take in which then it kind of became, okay, well, I know, and I reread that issue last year, maybe his first appearance or something. And it is a pretty grounded take. And so that's kind of what got me looking forward to, like, okay, cool. What are they going to do with the story? What are they going to do with him? And yeah, I really liked the look. And there's one shot in this when Montoya punches him in the face and, his face gets all, mushy. And it's like, there's your fun little wink of like, here's your little, you want your fantastical quote unquote Clayface. This is the shot for that. But otherwise, I think they do a really good job of doing the groundwork for how he's doing what he does.
And they released that as a still. It's a promo still. And you had people all debating, who is that? And I kind of went, I think it's Clayface,
Clayface, yeah.
Yeah. And no, I know, so you were like, that's somebody, that's such and such. I was like, I think it's Clayface. But in the entire Clayface, but I had no idea that they were going the route that they went. When I saw that and then I assumed it was Clayface, I thought, well, maybe it's part of, his disguise, he's a master disguise and, looks like he looked like he got, that's what it looks like. He got punched in the face. But when it's all said and done, I saw it. I just thought the whole thing worked very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this characterization of him. I like that he was not shot and killed at the end. It leaves it open for down the line if they work something else with Clayface. I'm not sitting here saying they better bring it back or anything. If a story merits it, then cool. They left that open for it, but it still felt like a good, like, contained episode for Basil Carlo, who I think they definitely leaned in a little bit. So there's a lot of great things they leaned in on this one. And I think you and I mentioned before we hit record here, this is my favorite episode of this first season. I love this one. And I think it has great replay value. The first time that you're watching it, I mean, I just finished the first episode, dove right into this one. I rewatched it and it was cool of like, okay, I know where they're going with things, but then you start to pick up on other stuff. You pick up on, you just said master of disguise. He is a master of disguise in this. He plays multiple roles. The Basil Carlo, as we all know, based on the name itself, but
Yeah.
even more so here with the voice performance. Let's see, who is it? Dan Donahue. His face looks familiar. I can't pick out anything he's been in off the top of my head, but with his voice too, like it felt very golden age Hollywood,
Yep.
and definitely made me think of the Boris Karloff. As we know, like the name of Basil Karlo was a
Well,
fun
you
little nod,
mentioned
like Boris Karloff.
100%, and you mentioned Golden Age Hollywood. I think even
Yeah.
Gotham seems to be like old school Los Angeles, you know,
Mhm.
Golden Age Holly, all of that. That's the vibe that this Gotham gave me. You go to Monoscope Pictures, and it's like
Mhm.
going to one of the lots,
It's like you've
out
seen
in
all those.
Hollywood,
Yeah.
like Warner Brothers or
Yep.
wherever, and
Driving the car drives
yeah,
to the gate, and there's a little gate with the security guard in it, and
yeah,
Montoya's like, "I'm here to see blah blah blah" or whatever. It's like,
yeah,
we've seen these in the old movies and
yeah, yeah,
movies taking place at that time
and that's
period.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I know some people are like, Gotham has got to be East Coast, it doesn't have to be. I mean, I know that Gotham is based on New York City, of course, but if this Cape Crusader Gotham wants to exist in West Coast and is kind of like that 30s and 40s, 1930s and
Hmm.
40s Hollywood,
Works
fine.
for me.
Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go.
That's also heavily influenced the whole movie, movie studio aspect of it,
Yeah.
influenced by that debut appearance of Clayface in the comics.
Yeah.
Um, the linking of so they even went. It was fun when, let's see, Montoya went to see I think it was like the studio head's assistant or something like that.
Hmm.
And they
Hmm.
even had really fun and cool as Montoya's walking out, like an old 1940s kind of like,
Yeah.
horror, like Universal
Yeah.
Monsters poster on the
Yes.
wall.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's freaking fun. They really leaned into the atmosphere of in this episode, which I like adored. And the London After Midnight. Like that's what the one director was directing. Like it was a fun nod to that of um when Batman is there in the studio or on the studio grounds at night. Uh, that was a fun nod. Just like a lot of just in oh, and then the like when he's chasing Clayface about halfway through and the in the set and they're going up like the steps the side of a castle. That was freaking nod to Robin Hood,
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
the Golden Age era, which was awesome. And then you and I even mentioned it. I think it's at that moment that he's sword fighting with Clayface, which it's
Yeah.
great to even
Yeah.
say that. Like
Yeah.
they're sword fighting. But that's when the
Yes.
music hits. You and I noticed, I'm sure many others noticed too. That's when like the composer does a massive nod to the Batman Forever score at that
Yeah.
moment too. And
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. It's not, hey, you get this? This is from Batman Forever kind of nod.
Yeah.
It's just like it fits with this action scene, and it's not this massive, action scene. It's like it's small and more personal. It's like man versus man and
Hmm.
very grounded.
I
It's like
wanted yeah, you
furthering
brought
establishing what they brought up the last episode of like this environment and this grounded take and everything. I just think all of that worked.
I brought this quote from Bruce Timm. He said, I wanted to blend atmospheric, as,
Mhm.
atmospherics. Oh, golly, that's words are hard.
Atmospherics. There we go.
Yes. Of Universal horror movies and the drama of the
Yeah.
Warner Brothers gangster movies and the action of the Republic serials and mix them all together with a lot of film noir on top. So, yeah, you kind of get all of that in this episode,
Yeah.
combined.
Yep. I think that could have been my favorite part of the episode. But then it's like then in rewatching like a second time it holds up just as well because the story is really good.
Yeah.
There's moving parts that you believe that first viewing, and then knowing where it's going that second one, you do see of Batman finds, I forget the two, so I think it's the the fat, yelling, angry studio head,
Yeah.
and some other guy underneath the stage,
Yeah.
dead.
Mm-hmm.
And on second viewing, the when we're introduced to that guy, he's by himself and he's screaming on the phone, and his assistant comes up and says that someone wants to come see him. And then the next time we see that guy, I think it's maybe that's the backstory of how he fired the Elman. Um, but we never see him murdered or anything like that. But I just
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel like I think in watching it that second time, connecting the pieces, when the secretary goes and tells him so and so's here to meet with you, at that
Director, I
point,
think. Wasn't
Basil
the
is,
director? Yeah.
I think maybe,
Yeah, he
but
said
I
I
thought
want to
like,
know. Yeah, he wanted to know if he still had a film to shoot or something like that.
but
Because
like at that point, I
yeah,
think Basil is that guy that's meeting with the studio head at that point now, because
okay.
who the studio guy is going to, or who he's meeting with, you look at the timeline, that guy's dead now. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, snap. So this is like, I feel like this is laying the groundwork of like, oh no, this is actually, he's going to meet with Basil and doesn't know it. And Basil's going to kill him next time we see
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah.
He's dead under the stage. It's like picking up those kind of pieces along the way on a second viewing. And I'm like, I think that's why I like this one so much. And like it just worked really well on a second viewing for me, almost just as well. And so it's like, I don't know, that's just great. That's just great storytelling. And then you build an atmosphere. I can forgive a lot with story if the atmosphere is great. It's like, but the story's awesome and the atmosphere is awesome. And the music by Frederick Weidman is awesome. I'm like, wow, this is just great. Great stuff through and through.
Yeah. It's I wrote like this is an old school murder mystery who done it,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Uh-huh. Which are always
And
fun.
yes. And because in the beginning, even like Basil dies right off the bat, pun
Hmm.
intended. And
That's right.
you're going, what? I
Hmm.
was going, you're like, what? What? I mean, Basil is Clayface. Where are we going here? And then
You knew though, didn't you? You were like,
huh?
that's not Basil. You knew watching that part. You're like, that's not Basil Carlo.
I
Don't know
yeah,
how,
I
but
mean,
that's not Basil.
I knew that there was going to be a twist because
Sure.
I knew Clayface was Basil.
We were like
You
6 minutes into the episode too, or something like that. So
Yeah, yeah. But I can see like not knowing that how it'd be really be wow. It's still
yeah.
kind of like because I didn't expect the him disguising all those pretending to be those other people when he'd already
Yeah.
killed them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so probably one of the reasons I really like this episode is because there were a lot of surprises throughout
Hmm.
and little twists and of course Batman, he when he sword fights Clayface, I'm like 6 going, Batman's got a sword and he's sword fighting, it's just,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Wow.
yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's note some other voice acting here. Run through the line. Hamish Linklater, um, introduced to his, we've got one episode under our belt. I think here he's awesome. I really dig his so Christian Bale did public Bruce Wayne like perfectly, but
Mm-hmm.
it still makes me uncomfortable. Because I think as I get older, like uncomfortable comedy gets more uncomfortable for me. It's not as funny, it's just more uncomfortable. So as he's public Bruce Wayne, it makes me still like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
Here I think public Bruce Wayne, it's not uncomfortable. It's again like not over the top, but still very believable. And I
Yeah.
think they do a really good job as interrogation with Montoya,
Yeah,
you
that's where
know,
I was going. It's just
and
he's basically he's bribing her,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's almost twofold for two reasons. One is because he wants to look like a douche,
Hmm.
okay? And
Check.
two, okay, and two, he is he is really in Batman mode, trying to determine if Montoya is good or bad cop.
He's interrogating her in a sense.
Yes.
And I love the observation that he has as soon as he gets out in the car with Alfred, and he talks about, I don't know if he said perceptive or what, but he speaks highly of her.
Yeah.
Like he just figured her out, and she's one of the good ones.
And she can, what does he say? Maybe she can be she can be an asset.
Yeah.
At some point. And Hamish Linklater's, his public Bruce Wayne voice and his regular Bruce Wayne voice, which is really the Batman voice. I really love that, the difference. And I remember reading, I guess from that Vanity Fair article, they're talking about when they met with a lot of actors, and they could do the Batman voice, but he was the one that really got the Bruce Wayne thing down, you know? And
yeah, I think it's really good.
Yeah. I mean, this
a good balance.
It
really
was,
good balance.
and it was, there is a bit of feeling uncomfortable with Bruce trying to bribe a police officer, police detective, just like, in the first episode, it was, it's like, well, I guess it's not a party until someone falls overboard.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was good.
Hey y'all, it's Bill Ramey, founder of Batman on Film. Let's take a quick pause in this podcast for these words from our sponsor.
This is our introduction to Lucius, isn't it? His lawyer.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's something that's very fitting. We've gotten used to the head of Wayne Enterprises, Lucius Fox, and whatever. And instead we got a lawyer, and it's like that doesn't. It's stupid to say like that doesn't bother me, but it didn't bother me. I'm like, oh, cool, Lucius. He's a lawyer in this series. Works. I think that flat out works.
I mean, not who's
forcing anything? It works.
Even though he's Bruce Wayne's private attorney, doesn't mean he can't at some point work for Wayne Enterprises.
That too.
I do also like they didn't go the route of the Dark Knight trilogy where he is Batman's Q. I think that works super well with what Nolan and them did. And I love the Morgan Freeman, Lucius Fox. And so if Lucius shows up in the Batman saga, I would expect him to be, because, this Bruce Wayne already know, not to get off on the tangent of the Batman saga, but Bruce is his own Q.
Yeah.
And that's serious. And I like that. And I don't want to lose that aspect of it. And I really liked, and we see Lucius a few more times during the series, during the episode. So I like this Lucius Fox as well.
Let's see who else we got. Diedrich Bader is Harvey Dent. He doesn't have like a big through line in this one. He's just furthering him a little, establishing himself a little bit more here. But I think Diedrich Bader does a great job.
Yeah. I like Diedrich Bader as Batman from Brave and the Bold, but he sounds nothing like that as Harvey. Yeah. And I like the part where, you're in the police station and the detectives are all hanging around and Dent's just there. And, and it just kind of like, there's like, they get to the very end. He's going, and I said, double or nothing. And they all go, ha,
yeah.
They all, yeah. And, there's that little double or nothing. And like, he's telling a joke and all the detectives some of them are probably fake laughing because it's Dent and they're trying to, suck up to him. And then there's that like, all right, y'all, he doesn't throw out a y'all, but it's like, all right, detectives, get back to detecting and keep the city safe. And you too, Bullock. And they all,
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I think it, because right after that, doesn't he talks to Montoya at that point, right? Yeah. And I think furthers convincing us that Montoya is good. I'll say even at this point too, 2 episodes in, I'm not going to speak down the road because we'll get to that on BOF, but at this point, so even though Dent, we're getting introduced and acclimated that this is not the Harvey Dent that we kind of all usually know, but he's not far off either. And I'm not annoyed by him though. I don't feel like, oh God, this guy's a douchebag. I don't, this guy's an a-hole. This guy's whatever. It's kind of like, oh dear, sort of. Yeah, but it's like he's still
Yeah,
good. Like
he's
I still enjoy watching him and his performance and stuff like that.
he's not Dark Knight, White Knight,
Yeah.
Harvey. He's not Harvey from year one.
Yeah.
He is district attorney. I think he's at a point where his ambition to be mayor, his
Mhm.
ambition to be move up in the politics, in the hierarchy of whatever that is in Gotham, is probably, he's losing himself a little bit, and he's still putting criminals behind bars, but he's also
Yeah.
losing sight. He's doing, like when he meets with Montoya in this episode, it's like, yeah, let's come up with a case and it'll make us both look really good,
He's in it for the perks rather than just flat out
Ye-
justice.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like,
There,
okay, that's interesting, but it doesn't make me not like him though either.
yeah. And there is that aspect that we see in episode 1 where him and Bruce are friends. I'm doing air quotes.
Yeah.
But you know that it's, for Bruce Wayne, it's just completely superficial, and it's really because he needs to have that as Batman, to have intel and to know what the hell Harvey's doing, as opposed to really being friends with Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. We're best friends that go way back.
Yeah.
Let's see. Cape Sam, Renee Montoya, Michelle C. Bonilla. I think she does a good job.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer John DiMaggio. He's Bullock. I like and it go like we see more as the season goes on. I like the Bullock and Flass partnering up.
Yeah.
I do like Bullock's not somebody you root for, whereas previous incarnations he kind of treads that line of like he's like he's dirty, but he has so many moments of like no, but he actually is a good one. Flass, I like that he's actually a part of GCPD. He's not just like in year one where 4 issues and then Flass is gone. It's like no, he's a part of the cast. He's showing up in every episode. I like that they do that with his character a little bit. Minor parts. So let's see. Oh, that Yvonne Francis, who's the one that kind of starts this whole thing because she ends up missing, voiced by Lacey Chabert. That's Garrett's Hallmark movie channel girl. Jeff Bennett is Jack Ellman, who let's see, he's he's the makeup. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say back when we were talking about with the Clayface material. Yeah, Jack Ellman. He's the studio makeup guy, and
Jack Pierce.
You see when Montoya goes to talk to him on his little tray, you see there's like a bar, and he even just says Clay on it.
Clay, yeah.
And it's like, so it's right there for everybody of like, there you go. There's your Clay applied to the face. We got Clay face. So there you go. I didn't Jason Watkins, Alfred Pennyworth.
Well, let me get before we move on.
Okay, go ahead.
But the Jack Ellman, he is right with the Basil Karlo, Boris Karloff. He is clearly aesthetically and his first name shares the first name with Jack Pierce. Jack Pierce was the big time makeup artist back in the day. He's known, for
Universal Monsters.
Yeah, and for he did Karloff's makeup for Frankenstein, and I mean even the little white jacket turtleneck thing in the glasses.
Google him. And the image that pops up, it's like, oh, put some glasses on that guy, and you got Elman.
yeah, exactly.
So Pennyworth, there's a moment, and I'm glad you mentioned. I think you mentioned this in your season 1 review on BOF, and we'll get there. But there is a really cool moment that not until it happens way down the line in this season that stuff does just kind of click for you.
Mhm.
And then you kind of go back in your head to Pennyworth Bruce, Pennyworth Batman interactions throughout the whole season. And a moment does hit pretty good at the
Mhm.
end between the two. I like their interactions in this episode as well. I think I love the Batcave stuff. It's not overdone, but it is like, no, it's the freaking Batcave. But it's like,
Mhm.
it's simple, it's believable of what he's got set up in there as
I
Alfred
really
is.
don't. Do you like? I like the lack of technology
Yeah.
and the lack of gadgets.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean they're good and stuff. That was something like in Scott
yes,
Snyder's run, he started to get for me too much into that, and there was way too much techie everything and explanations of how everything works. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm good just down to the basics. That's what's cool. A
like
batarang, a
yeah,
grapple gun. And I'm like,
I wrote in that in my season one review. I went like, he is limited. I mean, it's like batarang, grappling gun, Batmobile, and he got a bat sub. Okay, I'll give him
yeah, he's
that.
got a bat sub.
Yeah, and
He's
a
and he's
flat
also a bit of a
and a flashlight. You know,
that's right. On
and a
those little like the
magnifying
little
glass, and he goes around with a magnifying glass like Sherlock Holmes. And I'm kidding right there. He's got
yeah.
that. At times, sometimes he's got that hat, that Sherlock Holmes hat on with the two bills on. But well,
Yeah, of course.
I'm kidding.
Uh and he's a brawler, you know.
Yeah,
I like that's going back a little bit to being a little bit more basic. I like
yeah.
variety for sure. I'm not saying because really in the 2010s and the animated movies and stuff, they started to get really like hitting six different points in an attack on a bad guy and, bone crack, this, that, and whatever. And it's refreshing here of
Mhm.
like punch, punch, punch,
Mhm.
but still moving quickly and being Batman in the process. Um, So yeah, I mean, all that kind of goes back to I was just wanting to say like I like the Batcave showing up,
Mhm.
which is becoming a pattern here of showing him in the Batcave and
Mhm.
um let's see, Montoya build up. She becomes like we get there of like a trio of Batman building up allies, not sidekicks, allies.
Mhm.
And like within the police to help this, as we all know early on with Batman stories, and I like it here too, is the corrupt system that he's here to rid out the bad guys. I also thought
Mhm.
that was kind of funny of how quickly, like, they just grabbed a police sign and slapped it on another building because the original police station in the first episode blew up. And then in episode 2, it's like, no, here's the police station. It was like, oh, that was fast.
Yeah.
But hey, if it's the police station, it's like, yeah, they'll find a new building.
I that crossed my mind. Then I thought, this is a big city, so there's several precincts and
Sure.
stations. So
Uh, looking at my notes, see if I have anything else. Is there any points that you have written down?
I go back with the Alfred thing.
Sure.
I mean, at the beginning, watching him calling him Pennyworth throughout, and I'm not going to spoil that part. I'll
Mm-hmm.
just say but you kind of go, okay, this is different. So you kind of thinking, but just doing something different. And he never calls him Alfred, but
Yeah.
stay with it. There's a
Yep.
payoff.
Yeah.
There is. It's kind of got the Batman Pattinson, Pattinson's Bruce Wayne,
Mm-hmm.
and Andy Serkis's Alfred in the hospital type thing, kind of thing going on here, kind of sort of similar. So just you'll see. You'll see.
I think so. Like sort of kind of wrapping up. I do think that this is a contained episode,
Mm-hmm.
but as I think I see, if anything, I would maybe say like the final 2 episodes of this season are pretty linked. Yeah, you'd probably have to watch both, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
This has some threads that run from the previous episode and into the next
Mm-hmm.
episode. But for the most part, it's pretty contained. And I
Mm-hmm.
do like that quite a bit because then I can just randomly, if I'm just like laying down, I'm like, just put on the Clayface episode and watch that and be like, oh, cool.
Yeah, you
Batman is
definitely.
sword fighting on
Yeah,
steps.
you definitely can watch it as a standalone if you've seen the entire series, or not the entire series, the entire season of of this series of episode, season 1 of the series. If you rewatch it, you pick up on the little things. But we get Batman trying to figure out. You talk about allies, trying to figure out if Montoya
Mhm.
is good or bad, and if she would be a potential ally. Harvey's, they're building his story up a little bit more in this episode. We're introduced to Lucius Fox. We see Gordon. I just, yeah, it's I liked about the series itself that you can watch the episodes.
Mhm.
They are pretty much self-contained, but there are things throughout.
Yeah.
It is like you can watch, like, one of the benefits I thought of, I don't know if it's a benefit, but one of the things about watching it, like one after another, power watching it like I did, is that it kind of does play out. You get that, the Bruce story arc, and the Batman story arc, and Harvey Dent,
Yeah.
his story, all that, Batman's relationship with the allies, if you will.
Mhm.
Gordon, Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon, Harvey, all that, that continues, and it was a payoff. So yeah, but this was just this probably my God. It's this may be, I don't know. It's one of my favorites. It can go up. It can be 1 or 2, could be
Yeah.
3, depending on what I watched. So good episode.
Yeah, and I think I stand with it as being my favorite, but as I'm gonna go through on a
Mm-hmm.
rewatch, because I think I told you that episode 5, which is the Harley Quinn episode, surprised
Mm-hmm.
me. Like I liked that one.
Yeah.
That one was right there with it too. But we'll see, which isn't to say that other ones aren't good or anything. None of that at all. It's just, I think if I have to pick a favorite,
Did
I think this
you,
edges out.
as you watched, I felt like I got invested in a lot of these characters as it episode progressed.
Yeah. Yeah,
That it
absolutely. Like
wasn't that
even
it, yeah.
the next episode, um, Selena Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar yet different
Mm-hmm.
in a way too of what to do with her. And it was like really good. Like really liked it. Still true to the character. Didn't not like her. You know what I mean? And even
Yeah.
I mean, you come to Bullock and Flass not hiding it by this episode. If your gut's telling you not to trust these guys, trust your gut because they're
Yeah.
not good. They're not good police officers. But it's still like I like their inclusion here. Like what they do to the story. And as we see in this season with those two, how they affect the department and
I'll
Gordon and Montoya and stuff. And it's like I like their inclusion because it's like it does
well,
you
you
can't
see
just
that.
have nothing but good things happen in a story and have it be a
Yeah.
great story. It's like there's got to be conflict
Well,
and they're
like Montoya calls for backup, and
Mhm.
it goes to
Yes.
them, and they're sitting in
They
their
had to finish their
car
cheeseburger.
eating, and they turn off the radio, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Also, I disliked Flass more than Bullock.
Yeah. Glass had a little bit more of like he's a prick. Where Bullock, they hit on it pretty well of from the 90s cartoon. There's a little bit of like as hard nosed as he is, there's also a little bit of like a doofus aspect, just a little
Yeah.
bit to him. And I think that almost comes off as like a little like more fun and maybe not charming, but it's kind of like Whereas Flash is just like,
okay.
yeah,
It's
he's
like,
year one Flash, where he's a prick.
yeah, and it's like with Bullock is that Flash is taking advantage
Oh yeah,
of it.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's more of that later on, and we won't get into, but
I think Bullock, there's little, there's still something there to bring him to the good side. Whereas
I would
Flash,
say
he's crossed the line.
now this is just
Flash is bad.
in my fandom, my fan fiction, I would say Bullock was probably a good cop at one point.
Fair.
Flash probably never was.
Yeah. I'd get that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd follow that along. I'd almost think that I thought you were gonna say, like, in my fan fiction, Bullock was a lineman on the Cowboys, and
He wore number 63.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was eating too many donuts, not doing enough squats.
Yeah.
And then he got booted.
But
But no,
yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think this is a great episode. Obviously,
I don't know if they even that's in their show Bible that, Bullock, when they had their little part about Bullock and his background, I don't know if it even says anything like, good cop at one point, but now,
Mhm.
can be influenced, and he's partnered with Flash, and Flash is an asshole. And so
Yeah.
he goes along and,
Yeah, that's something I would like to see.
but
Is
he's not,
like-
yeah, but he's not he's not or unwilling. He's bad because he's making that decision. But I
Mhm.
still think there's a bit of taking advantage and playing him, if you will.
Yeah, I think there's an episode later on that supports your theory,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we'll get there.
Yeah.
So, I think sometimes it's been a while since on here. Do you have like a favorite part, like a notable part in this
that
episode?
sword fight. I like
The
that.
sword fight.
Yeah, that was just because, like I said, I was like 6 going, Batman has got a sword and
Yeah.
he's sword fighting with Clay. It's just,
Yeah.
come on. Sometimes it's that simple to like
People
something.
love the romanticizing of old Hollywood too. Those are good money shots. I think that's a great money shot of this one too.
Yeah.
I do love the image of when we first see Clayface decked out with his hat and scarf and everything. Like that's cool. But yeah, I think I'm with you of just because getting that, like Errol Flynn, Robin Hood on those steps, but then also it makes me think of Dracula's castle and those steps and the moodiness around it and everything. That, yeah, I think I'm with you. I like that because that wasn't just like sometimes there used to be a formula of the animated episodes, and that felt like that was like, oh, this is the final fight right before the episode ends, and then you look and it's like, no, we're only halfway through the episode. And it's like, that's awesome. We got a long ways to go here still. What are they gonna do? So yeah, I think I'm with you.
I will mention I do really like the scene. Is Batman's not even in it, but he isn't. It's Bruce Wayne that when Montoya is interviewing him, and Batman and Bruce Wayne is being obnoxious and bribing her, and he's really, like I mentioned earlier, he's interviewing her. He's trying to figure out. That's a clever
That's good stuff.
scene.
And I didn't even say that. And they closed the book on it at the end because she finds it on her jacket. She finds little Micah, so then she talks directly into it, and he's driving the Batmobile.
He bugs her. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And she's like, if you're listening and blah blah blah. And I just thought that was pretty good too. Like that was a good.
Well, yeah. What did
capper
she say?
to it all.
We have unfinished business, or we're not done yet, or something.
Because you break it down, it's a cartoon. I understand this, but if you break it down, it's like that's a good to draw people in. You got to make it relatable and understandable, and humanistic qualities and stuff. And it's like just because he crashed through the window, which is a great Batman shot there towards the end, like that doesn't mean that all of a sudden like that quick she's like, oh yeah, I love Batman, he's the greatest.
Yeah,
it's like she'd still be skeptical.
Where this is episode 2. This is Batman. He doesn't have any allies but Gordon. I mean, I'm sorry, but Alfred. Anywhere.
Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out himself.
Yeah.
Okay. Who can I trust, and who would be a benefit to to me. You know, who are the good guys?
Mhm.
And so he's being hunted by the police. So we're at that point still too. I like that whole dynamic of,
Yeah.
I mean, he's on his own.
He earns where he's at by the end of first season. He's earned that positioning.
Yeah.
And I think this is, you remove this part, you remove this chapter, and you don't get there as well.
Yeah.
Which I know sounds like obvious, but it's like there's just, Montoya's the key focus of building that relationship, because she was pretty much absent other than like running out of the police station last episode. I don't think she had a speaking part. We saw her like maybe twice. And so like this was her episode of like almost introduction in a sense. So
Yeah.
it's pretty crucial on that front too. I don't think that she overtook Batman's, you know, first name on the billing or anything like that. I felt this was like Batman's the star.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne, Batman, he's the star of this episode. But she's a pretty good supporting character in this one. So
Yeah.
all around, bravo.
Yeah.
That's what I got. All right. Want to put a bow on this?
Yep.
Okay. A bow made of clay.
Sure.
Plug away, Bill. Where can people follow you? What you got going on?
Batman-on-film.com. There you go.
Dashes are crucial, people.
Yes.
Make sure you get the dashes in.
Yeah.
As for me, let's see. I need to get you the written review to post on Batman on Film for Batman 151. That's out now. It's the latest issue of Batman. I have a most recent episode of my podcast, The Batman Book Club, has old Boudin Pockets. We talked about all the new Batman comics in July.
Yeah.
And I believe you posted that on Batman on Film.
That's on
graciously.
Batman on Film. Yes.
So there you go. Batman-on-film. Go there. And that's all I got. So for Bill, Jett, Ramey, I'm Ryan Lauer. Announcer Rachel's going to take us out.
Thanks for listening to Batmanimation, a BatmanOnFilm.com podcast revisiting the animated TV and film adventures of the Caped Crusader. Follow Batmanimation on Twitter @Batmanimation. Follow BOF on Twitter @TheBatmanOnFilm. Follow Jett on Twitter @BatmanOnFilm. For Jett and Team BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Batman on Film, authoritative, definitive, the original. Established in 1998.